Hi, it's Ash, and welcome back to my channel. In this vlog, I'm going to show you how I go about my days when I'm starting a painting. Starting with my early morning routine of getting myself a cup of tea. I usually go for English breakfast as it's my favorite among all tea flavors, and I have a whole cabinet filled with various tea as I'm a tea drinker, and that's just a very important part of my art morning routine. So in today's vlog, I'm going to take you on a journey of how I completed this painting. It was incredibly frustrating, yet a rewarding process, and it helped me get out of art block. So if you want to know how I overcame art block and finished this painting, keep on watching. As I'm talking, you'll see the days in which I painted what, like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, to show you the amount of time it took to complete this painting, as it was a struggle. But before we get into that, I wanted to first start by telling you what I am painting. However, if you want to get straight into the section where I talk about art block, go to this timestamp. Okay, so I am painting my rendition of Alice in Wonderland. I perceive her as this girl who adapted yet overpowered a new world and wanted to portray that in her size. I also have the Queen of Hearts and her men scattered throughout the piece as small figures that serve as only an obstacle in her story. I made the rabbit a bit bigger and more natural looking, so no vest or frantic pose or watch or anything, as I wanted to portray it in its original form as a harmless rabbit that has yet to adapt to the world and instead is still stuck in the normal world's view of him. So just a regular rabbit that really has no significance other than its meaning in the original story. I also have an archway in this piece which links the two worlds as Alice is lounging on the steps that lead into Wonderland, yet outside of the archway is the regular world perceived as, the real world. This piece symbolizes the yearning and desire we have as humans to discover new areas as well as our adaptability to new environments and experiences that challenge our way of life. This is one of my favorite paintings of 2023, and I look forward to see what else I can come up with in 2024. So this first day wasn't super productive as I just did the skin and the pillow, and I wasn't too satisfied, but I waited till the next day. So I like to do daily walks to get into a headspace where I can perceive the world as anything, and that helps me with painting and how I expand that and translate that into my pieces. So on day 3, I really did redo the pillow as it was something I was struggling with a bit, but I really think it started coming together. It started looking really good, and I really like how it turned out in the end. In fact, I think it's my favorite part of the whole painting, which is either sad or really good. I guess, I don't know. I like how I rendered it out of everything else in the whole painting. So I'm super proud of how it did turn out, even though I might not be as proud with other items in the painting. The highlights of the pillow were definitely my favorite part, as it really did bring the pillow to life, as well as gave it a bit more of perspective. I darkened the hair here, however I darken it a lot more later, because I just feel like her hair kind of meshes with her skin tone a bit too much. But that's something I fix later, so I'm not too worried about it. But looking back at it now, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. But when I redid her skin, I really liked how that turned out, as it made her a bit more rich looking. So with the dress, I had the same issue as with the hair. The tones were kind of mixing together and becoming this kind of brown, washed out look, which happened with the pillow, the hair, and it all was starting to just look like the same thing, just different values. And I think that's when I started to get a little upset with how it was turning out. So then I just skipped everything else and went to green, because that's just a staple in my work. And usually adding foliage and leaves and grass really helps me see kind of where it's going, where the painting's going. And I liked it a bit, but then I redid the sky because I didn't like that. It just wasn't going how I wanted it to. I really hated how it looked at this point. I tried going for my usual color palette, which is like green, browns, and yellows. It just wasn't looking how I planned it, and I just realized like, maybe I'm just not cut out for this ambitious of a painting, because it was a big canvas. I started putting more attention on the greenery on the grass, which really did help, but it became something that was so over-rendered that everything around it kind of just didn't seem like it mattered as much as, you know, the grass did, which I love the grass. It's a staple for my work, but I want everything else to meet its standards as well. And I figured the highlights and the shadows would definitely make it pop more, but again, it would continue to wash out the rest of everything. So on day 4, when I tried to really reevaluate, especially in the daytime and not washed out by the night, I was like, okay, I will do the archway and see how that turns out. And it was okay. It worked fine, I guess, but because it was more browns, it continued to wash out everything but the green in the painting. So it just wasn't looking the best. Despite being frustrated, I did still like the concept of the painting and didn't want to quit. So I just kept going with the browns and the intricate shadows and details of the statues, which are bunnies, by the way, kind of like a little Easter egg to the story. And I appreciated like the composition, the drawing. It's just the painting just did not go my way. So moving on to the steps, I also continued to do the browns, and I think that's where I really started to get frustrated, as just the brown next to Alice herself, just it was not looking cohesive or how I wanted it to. And I think with Alice's dress being brown, I wanted to try making it my own spin on the Alice character, but then I realized maybe brown is just too overkill in this painting, and I need to reevaluate my color palette and, you know, go outside my comfort zone. So again, I went back to the greens because I'm more confident in that area, and I just focused on this small part of the painting where I mainly prioritized the greens and the bushes, as well as the houses, the statues, and I was dissatisfied with my capability to do anything more than green, brown, and yellow, leading to more frustration with the piece. So on to art block. Art block can be defined as the loss of motivation to be creative and make art. It often stops artists from being productive or excited about creating. I encountered that right in the middle of this piece. I was so unsatisfied with this painting, and I thought the colors were too similar, the technique wasn't there, and that overall, it just didn't look good. I decided to take a break for a while, do walks, and focus on other paintings. And I finally returned to it 1 month later. After staring at the painting for ages, as it was just sitting in my room for weeks, I decided to pick it back up again. My thought process was an anxiety-riddled mess. My brain constantly kept criticizing my unproductive work, saying, why is it so hard to finish a single painting? Why do I hate it so much? How come other artists can do this better than me? I think my art block stemmed from constantly comparing myself to other artists, forgetting that each artist has their own separate journey. I always hated my art because I held such high standard for myself because of what I saw on social media. All the artists I look up to, I already hold myself to that standard without expecting myself to grow. I saw their work and I wanted that for myself. However, with those standards, I could never be satisfied with my art, as it wasn't what I wanted. Yet, art is not supposed to be this planned thing that is meant to come out a certain way. I believe art is meant to be spontaneous at times, and can't be constrained by what we want it to be. We have to let our work breathe and become what it wants to be. Art block is such a powerful thing that overtakes artists sometimes, and I think it's because we constantly set high standards for ourselves, essentially burning ourselves out. And I definitely experienced that with this painting, as it took a whole 2 months to finish, when really it could have just took a couple days, maybe like 2 weeks at most. But because of those high standards I held for myself, it was prolonged and I just was never satisfied with it. Like here, for example, after taking the time to look at it, I changed the hair of the character once I stopped and realized why I didn't like it. If we took a step back and really appreciated the process and the time behind the work instead of the final product and the response it will get, we can overcome art block more often. However, that is not to say that we won't have it occasionally, as it's inevitable. However, we can stop ourselves from spiraling if we take the time to stop comparing ourselves to others and give ourselves impossible expectations to meet. One of the artists I look up to as an old master is Jan Honbro Fragonard. I appreciate his work and especially his piece, The Swing, and I make sure it's implemented in all of my work. However, I expect all my work to look as good as it, instead of being inspired by it and the techniques he uses. That's what holds me back. And eventually, after weeks of having art block, I was able to overcome my misgivings and my unfair expectations of myself and was able to complete this piece to something that I really like. In fact, it's one of my favorite pieces that I've ever made, because I stopped comparing myself to other artists and I really did what I trusted and thought was best for me. I hope you all like this video. I plan on posting every Friday, so be on the lookout for those videos. I would love it if you liked and subscribed, and I thank you for watching.